Not only was Kohelet wise, he also taught the people what he knew. Also he weighed, researched, and corrected many ethical sayings. Kohelet worked to develop an attractive writing style in which he expressed the truth straightforwardly. Now, I'm sorry, but as somebody who loves English and words, this just delights me. I know, the rest of you are like, oh, Sherry. The sayings of the wise are as sharp as goads, and those given by leaders of assemblies are like well-fixed nails, and in this case they are presented by a single shepherd. We have a single shepherd. In addition, my son, take heed. One can write many books. There's no end to it. You can fill volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes. And one can study so much that it wearies the flesh. Okay, so I want to just go over some of the words. Kohelet. So Ecclesiastes in Hebrew is Kohelet. Kohelet. Well, eventually I'll get there. Kohelet. It's a collector of sentences, a preacher, a public speaker, a speaker in an assembly, an orator, right? Okay. So when it says preacher, most of the translations say preacher. It's one who speaks, right? Public speaker. I'm a Kohelet. Oh, this time I didn't know. All these times I went and go speak at conferences and whatever, where I was a Kohelet. In other words, she's got a mouth and she knows how to use it. Okay, that's a little dangerous. So that's Kohelet, okay? Let's look at a couple words. Goad. You know what a goad is? It is a pointed instrument used to stimulate a beast to move faster. I'm going to goad. We always say, don't goad him. Don't poke him along, right? To incite. Don't goad him. Don't incite him. Don't stimulate. Sayings of the wise are as sharp as goads. To incite. The sayings of the wise should stimulate you. They should instigate you, urge you forward. Right? Okay? They should stimulate you to move faster. How about a nail? I like this one. Let's do, it says the claw or the talon or fowl of an animal. That's not the nail it means. Our nails. That's not the nail it means. It's a small pointed piece of metal. Ah, that nail. Usually with a head that we hit with a hammer. Driven into a board or another piece of timber and serving to fasten it to other timber. So what does it do? It unites, it connects it, it unites it, right? Unifies it. It makes two things become one. Our furniture has nails in it, so these separate pieces become one unit. By themselves, will they hold my books? No. But together, they'll hold volumes. By ourselves, we can do a little bit. But when we function as a body and we fit together, and sometimes when we're nailed together, we can do so much more. Iron sharpens iron. The larger kinds of instruments are called spikes. You probably would have seen that on Golgotha. You would have seen that on that ultimate Passover, Pesach. That was a spike. That wasn't a nail. That was a spike. And the smaller ones, the little flat, tiny little things are called brads. They don't hold a whole lot together. They're still useful. But the nails pierce and cut through and yet hold together. I thought that was interesting. Okay. Not only was Kohelet wise, he also taught the people what he knew. He also weighed, researched, and corrected many ethical sayings. Kohelet worked. Who's Kohelet here? Solomon. Solomon. This is Solomon. He's the teacher here. He's the public speaker here. Okay? This is Solomon. He worked to develop an attractive writing style in which he expressed the truth straightforwardly. The sayings of the wise are as sharp as goads, and those given by leaders of assemblies are like well-fixed nails, and in this case they are presented by a single shepherd. In addition, my son, take heed. One can write many books. There's no end to it. And one can study so much that it wearies the flesh. But here's the final conclusion. Now that you have heard everything, fear God, keep his mitzvot. This is what being human is all about. I don't have to write a whole book to tell you what your purpose is. No other comment. I'm not making a comment about a book. I'm not making a theological statement. I'm just saying, you want to know what your human purpose is, this is it right here. Okay? Hear first. Hear. And we learned Shema is what? What do we know about Shema? Is to hear, listen, and do. It's not just pay attention. Listen, pay attention. And then what? Do it. Right? Pay attention and do it. That's here. So here's the final conclusion. Now that you have heard, now that you've paid attention to what I've been telling you, fear God. What is that fear? That fear is yareh. That's to be revered. If I'm outside the camp, I should be afraid. I should be very, very, very afraid. And the world is walking around in their sin and like bliss. And they should be trembling, right? In fear. We're afraid of the things we shouldn't be afraid of. Well, I shouldn't fear the enemy. The enemy should fear my God. The fear I should have is reverence and awe, right? Right here, okay? Not to be afraid. If I'm afraid of him, then you better do this. And Abba, I want your discipline. I don't want your wrath. I want your what? Right? Create in me a clean heart. Should be an attitude every day. Okay? All right. Then I will walk in fear, in awe, in reverence. Okay? Fear him, revere him, be in awe of him, right? Okay? So if I go, fear him, keep his mitzvot. Mitzvot isn't, I know we say law, and I know we say commandment, but what it is his instructions. Okay? If you want the nitty-gritty of it, it's instructions. Okay? It's his instructions. And then keep, right? I'm sorry, I have to go back because I can't see both at the same time. And keep his mitzvot, keep his instructions. And that's the same word, shamar. When we light candles for Shabbat, if we do, or when we do on Passover, or whenever, he said to remember and observe. Remember the Sabbath day in one place. In the next place, he said observe. Remember and observe. That's why there's two candles. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Observe the Sabbath day. So not only am I to remember it, oh yeah, 6 days you created and this, now I'm to observe. I'm to watch and guard and keep it. Okay? That's what that means. So watch and guard and keep. Okay? And that's how you would see it if you look at it in the Blue Letter Bible. There's all of your Hebrew words. There's all of your English. And you can look up the root meanings. Remember, you're only getting the roots. You're not necessarily going to get the where it's pointing to or the prepositions or any of that, but you're going to get the root meanings. Okay? So if I rewrote it, I could say, here's the final conclusion. Of all these words, let us hear, listen and obey, and be in awe of God, and keep his teachings and his instructions. This is our job. This is our purpose. This is what being human is all about. Is that good? Mm-hmm. And it came out of Ecclesiastes of all places. Go figure. You know, a book we don't really like to go to because those are some hard, Solomon had hard sayings. Paul had hard sayings. Solomon had some hard sayings, right? Okay. Still have value. Doesn't it line up with this one in Micah? It does. What does the Lord require of you? But to what? Do justly, love, mercy, chesed, and walk humbly with your God. If you hold him in awe, you're going to walk humbly. You can't walk humbly before him if you don't hold him in awe. If you do not revere and understand his magnitude and awesome magnificence, you can't walk humbly, right? They go hand in hand. Okay. Remember, meekness is not weakness. Yeshua was meek. That was strength under control. Okay? He was meek. He could have. He didn't even have to say a word. He could have just. What happened in the garden? Who are you looking for? Yeshua. I'm he. Down they all went. Power. And yet he was meek. He submitted to the will of his Father. So in this verse, in Micah, comes out of Deuteronomy. See, they're all connected. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay. So, moving on. We're going to go to Exodus chapter 19. Exodus chapter 19. Oops, I don't want to go to that one yet. Sorry. Okay. In the 3rd month after the people of Israel had left the land of Egypt. Remember, I'd kind of gone over this a little bit a couple weeks ago. So this is right. The 1st month would have been Pesach, but it would have been on the 15th, right? On the 10th, they took in the lamb. I'm just trying to show you that there's only been 3 months. This is a relatively short amount of time. Okay. So they brought in, on the 1st of the month, this is the new month for you. On the 10th, bring in a lamb. You're to keep this little baby and love on it and bring it into your house, and your children are going to love on it. You're going to laugh at it, and you're going to fall in love with it. And then on the 14th, you're going to put your hand on it, and you're going to slit its throat. And you're going to put the blood over the door. You're going to have Pesach. No leavened bread. And then all the Egyptians are going to give you you're going to loot them, right? They're going to give you all this stuff, and you're going to walk out. And then you're going to go, and you're going to go into the promised land. Well, now turn around. I want you to go over here. God put their backs against the ocean, the water, the ocean, the sea, the Red Sea. We put their backs against the ocean. They got mountains on both sides. And here comes the army. And God put them there. Have you ever thought about that? He put him there. He put him in that tough spot. Lead us not into hard testing. He purposely said, turn around and go back in there so that Pharaoh will think, oh, they're wandering around aimlessly in the desert. And the people were thinking, Moses, what have you done? We're wandering aimlessly. It's not from our perspective. Because God wanted to say to his children, hey, settle down. Quiet down. I'm going to show you, right? And then he wanted to destroy the enemy and prove his power and his might once and for all. I'm done with you. There's coming a day. Okay, so they walk through, basically like a baptism through the Red Sea, right? Come out, okay? And now they're wandering. They've gone through the point where they wanted meat and bread and food, and they wanted water, and okay, now this is where we're at. So 3 months. So basically, from the time of Pesach to now, we're at about 2.5 months, right? Oh, Shavuot, Pentecost, after the counting the Omer, right? Okay, so that's where this is. On that same day, they came to the Sinai desert, and after setting out from Rephidim and arriving at the Sinai desert, they set up camp in the desert there in front of the mountain. The mountain. This is in the Sinai desert. This is in Saudi Arabia, not the Sinai Peninsula. We get hung up on, oh, today we have this place called Sinai Peninsula, and so we say, oh, that's the Sinai. Nope. So it was in Saudi Arabia. Okay, that's where the mountain of God was. All right. Moses went up to God, and Adonai called to him from the mountain, here is what you are to say to the household of Yaakov, to tell the people of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you will pay careful attention, listen and Shema, to what I am saying, and keep, that's the Shema, my covenant. Just lines up with what we read in Ecclesiastes, right? Then you will be my own treasure from among all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you will be a kingdom of Kohanim for me, a nation set apart. Aren't we told that in the New Testament? It's always been his plan to graft us in. It's always been his plan. Okay. So Moses came and summoned the people, and he presented all these words which Adonai had ordered. And all the people answered at one, everything that Adonai has said we will do. Right? Everything. Okay. So I want to skip down to verse, let me see, where am I going? 14. No, 12, I'm sorry. You are to set limits for the people around. Say, be careful not to go up to the mountain or even touch its base. Whoever touches the mountain will surely be put to death. Mountains, remember, are high places. They're holy places. So this particular mountain is a holy place where they're going to meet God. No hand is to touch him. Anyone who comes to the mountain will surely be put to death. No hand is to touch him, for he must be stoned or shot by arrows. Neither animal nor human will be allowed to live. I often wondered why. Because he's trying to tell you something that is holy, don't come dirty, don't come mundane. There are degrees to going up to the Temple Mount. There are mikvahs to wash off the dirt. Okay? It's all about how you present yourself. Can an unholy person go before a holy God? Yes, we do it all the time. But make sure that as I'm getting there, before I enter into the Holy of Holies, Abba, if there's something on me that shouldn't be here, get rid of it. Clean it. Wash your hand. Peter didn't have to have his whole body washed. He goes, wash me all. And Peter, your hands are dirty. Your feet are dirty. Not all of you. Okay? Same here. Same here. Okay? So when the shofar one sounds. I believe this one came from, I don't believe any human being blew this one. My opinion. Then they may go up to the mountain. Oh, see, we think that they weren't allowed to go to the mountain at all. No, this is how you will approach me. You see what I'm saying? There's a way to approach him. Moshe went down from the mountain to the people and separated, sanctified, kadosh. The word here is kadosh, kadesh. It means to separate, to sanctify. Okay, we say holy. The people for God, and they washed their clothing. Why? Because their clothing was dirty. They've already walked through the Red Sea. They've already basically, it's kind of, picture of. It wasn't a baptism. It's like a picture of a baptism. They're walking into new life with God. They're leaving the world in Egypt, and they're now going to follow God. But their clothes got dirty. You see what I'm saying? Okay. And prepare for the third day. And don't approach anyone. Why? Because I want you, there are times, New Testament says that if you're married, there's times of separation for prayer and fasting, right? Because you have concentrated times. There are need for those. Is it an everyday thing? Probably not like that. Okay, but is it needful at times? Absolutely. Okay? So this is what he was telling them, okay? And then on the morning of the third day, there was thunder, lightning, and a thick cloud on the mountain, and then a shofar blast sounded so loudly that all the people in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet God. Hey, come on, kids. I want to show you your Abba. What? Come on. We get to go with you this time? He's gone up to the mountain before. This time he's taken them with him. Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood near the base of the mountain. And then Mount Sinai was enveloped in smoke because Adonai descended onto it in fire. Its smoke went up like the smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain, shook violently. As the sound of the shofar grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him in a voice. Wow. That's so cool. Okay, then it goes on and it says to, the people are like, no, you speak to him. Don't be like that. We don't want to be like that. We can't approach a holy God through the blood of his son, the perfect lamb. Okay, not the blood of bulls and goats and lamb and sheep, but the perfect one. Okay, so now where are we going? The instructions. Here's the instructions. I want you to see how they line up with everything else in the book. The reason they're written on our heart. We talk law. Instructions. The instruction manual. It's right here. And he will write it on our heart through the Spirit. We know it lines up in two categories. God and man. Our relationship with God and our relationship with man. That's how come all of the law instructions are summed up in 2. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your being. That's the first one. And what's the second one? Love your neighbor. All of the law, please understand this, all of the law is summed up in those 2. The whole thing, everything. You want to obey, don't get hung up on the, oh, no, I can't do that. No, I can't tie my shirt. No, you got to worship to your, you see where they got off? You see how they got wrong? Well, we don't want to disobey. Well, I'll tell you how not to disobey. Obey. Line up with it, what he's telling you in his heart. Because I can guarantee you, you're going to get dirty loving a human being. I can't do that. Did God tell you to love this person? Then you can do that. It's not the outward law. It's the inward heart. It's out of love. It's out of love. It's out of love. It's out of love. Okay. So let's find out what are in those 2 categories. Basically, let's follow the 10 words. Okay? I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the abode of slavery. How much time do we have? Just on this one verse. Yes, my mind just went. First of all, him, not me. I'm going to say his words. Him. I am Adonai, your God. And that should be capitalized. I apologize. Adonai. I am Yud, He, Vav, He, your God. End of story. Isn't that enough? Really, truly? Who brought you out of the world? Oh, Egypt. I'm sorry. Egypt represents the world. Did he bring us out of the world? We walk by faith in reality. We live in the world. But let's walk by his word and truth, in his spirit. Okay? It's a balancing act. Are we going to make mistakes? Yep. I make them daily. Oh, Lord, I make them daily. Out of the abode of slavery, bondage. You are not in bondage to the world. You are not in bondage to the enemy. You are not. You are not. You are not. If you need to put this in front of you and look at it every single day, please remind yourself you're not bound to the world. You're not bound to the world system. You're not bound to politics, God's government. It's the counters. You're not bound to the counters. You're not in bondage, in slavery. Okay? You are free, men and women. Act like it. If he has made you free, you are free. And who the heck are you to put yourself back into it? You're telling him, I don't think you know what you're talking about. Okay? All right, moving on. You are to have no other gods, little g, before me. You know, if you read it here, it says you're not to make for yourselves a carved image of any kind, of representation of anything in heaven above or the earth beneath or in water below or the shoreline. You know, there are people who, oh no, you can't have a picture. That's not what it said. It's an image. Are you bowing down to it? Are you worshiping it? Did you create it and say it's a deity? Then there's nothing wrong with it. The temple itself had lions and cherubim. So did God break his own law? Please, you're not under bondage anymore. Get out of it. Okay? Can I have a statue? Sure. Don't bow down to it. Don't worship it. Don't look to it for... Why would you look to a statue for...
Recognize it for what it is, a statue. Inanimate object.
Yeah, we have statues all over our capitals and building and, you know, and hands and carvings and animals and things, but we're not worship. Please take it in context. Take it in context. Now, if there is an idol that you're actually praying to, now I'm going to tell you, Maybe you need to think again. Okay? There's only one person who died and rose again, Yeshua. And he told us to pray to the Father. If you're praying to anyone else, you're not doing it correctly. Okay? We only pray to the Father. We only pray to the Father. Does that mean if I'm in trouble, I can't say, Yeshua, I need you, Yeshua? No, because Yeshua means God saves. Yah saves. He is my salvation. But I pray to the Father. You told me to pray to the Father. Okay? All right. You are not to bow down to them or serve them. In context, for I, Adonai, your God, am a jealous God. Ooh, jealousy's. Jealousy is destructive. Just saying. Punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but displaying grace to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and obey my mitzvot. Abba, extend grace, and bring our wandering children and grandchildren back. Okay. You are not to use lightly the name of Adonai, Yud, He, Vav, He, your God, because Yud, He, Vav, He will not leave unpunished someone who uses his name lightly. This is why the Jewish people as a whole say Hashem, because he's holy, and I don't want to flippantly say it. I don't want to say it mundane. Okay? If I'm talking about God, God is a title, not a name. So if I say God, it's a title, not a name. But if I actually use the acronym, if I use his name, there's power there, and I need to make sure that it is the right use and the right purpose. Okay? Okay. So we will say God, or we will say Lord. We will put titles. But now when I go in my prayer closet, am I going to speak? Yes, I am. That doesn't mean you have to. If you're convicted not to do that, that's fine. Just don't use it flippantly. Don't use it mundanely. Don't use it without thought. Okay? That's what that means. All right? Because he won't leave unpunished anyone who uses his name trivially. How about that word? Is that word better? Trivial. Lightly. Without thought. Okay. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart for God. Remember the Sabbath day. See, here it says remember. In another place, when it repeats the commandments, it says observe. Okay? Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart for God. You all, essence, we have 6 days to do whatever we want. We have 6 days to work. We have 6 days to put our hands to the plow. We have 6 days to provide for our homes. We have 6 days. But the 7th day, you are not to do any kind of work. Not you, your son, your daughter, your male slave, your livestock. We don't have slaves. Well, if I go to the store, somebody's got to work and they're getting paid. Oops. You know, when I was growing up in Sunday church, it was the thing to go out to eat afterwards, right? They're serving you. A slave is a servant. They're serving you. Somebody's working. When you're traveling, sometimes you're traveling on Shabbat. You don't have a choice. Okay, well, but the law allows for that, doesn't it? Yeah, grace allows for that too. And there's a lot of grace in the law, by the way. There's a ton of grace in the law. A ton of grace in the law. Instructions. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, the sea and everything in them, but on the 7th day he rested. Did he need to rest? Nope. It's his day. We're to delight in it with him and each other. Okay? Does that mean can I go for a hike with the kids? Yeah, absolutely. Can I play a board game? Yeah. Why? It's relationship. Relationship. Right? Relationship. I got to have this one to have this one. Okay. This is why Adonai, okay, thank you. Sherry might pull weeds on Saturday. Now, some of you, that would be work. Some of us, it's not work. Some of us, God's actually talking to us and showing us some weeds in our lives that we need to pull out. Don't put on somebody else yours. Don't judge somebody else yours. Okay? being out in the garden, I'm out in the garden. Did you not get that? I'm out in the garden. I'm out in his creation. Okay? Now, I've got to plant those. I better not do that on Shabbat. There's a difference. There's a difference. Oh man, I got a lot of weeds. I need to go pull it. Nope, 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 nope. Difference. It's attitude. It's why I'm out there. Okay? But don't put restrictions on other people. Worry about yourself. And if you're worried about them, go alongside them and figure, and then maybe God will tell you something different. Maybe. Okay. So this is why Adonai blessed the day, Shabbat, and separated it for himself. All right, next one. Honor your father and mother. Tomorrow's Father's Day. Okay, so today I honored my father. He's no longer with us, but man, he was a wonderful man, and I thank my heavenly Father that I had two wonderful fathers. Not everyone has that privilege. Okay? Not everyone has that privilege. But then, maybe other areas of my life weren't so wonderful. So we like to have a tendency to see what somebody's one good thing and then think, oh, how come I can't be? Well, okay, but you want the garbage? You want the rest of it too? See what I'm saying? Don't put your eyes on human beings and what you think God is doing or did for that one, because you don't know the turmoil, you don't know the trials, you don't know what else came with that. Okay? All right. So honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land with Adonai your God is giving you. That's the first one with promise there, right? Okay, so the first 4 were about your relationship with God, right? Now we're into relationships with each other. And the first one being your parents. The second one, do not murder. What did Yeshua say? Don't kill him with your tongue. Don't curse me with your tongue. Don't kill me with your tongue. Don't come along and God is giving me this and you want to pop the balloon. Bite your tongue and swallow the blood. Okay, sorry. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. They're not yours. Doesn't belong to you. You get it? It goes with the very last one. I'm going to skip to the very last one. Do not covet. It's not yours. If God wants you to have it, he's going to give it to you. If you need it, you will have it. Or maybe you need to go work for it. But don't take somebody else's and don't want what they've got. Again, I say to you, you might want this, but do you want everything else that comes with it? So you don't know everything. It's like an iceberg. You see the tip of it, but 90% of it's below water. You don't know what you're asking for. You don't know what you're looking at. And when you get it, all you're going to have is trouble. Because you weren't prepared for the 90%. You just wanted the 10 that you could see with your eyes. Okay. Do not steal. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not give false evidence against your neighbor. I don't get that one. And I've had it happen. I've had it happen. I don't understand. I don't know what you get out of it. I don't know what people get out of that. I really don't. I don't know what they gain. I don't want to know. I don't want to understand. Okay, and the last one. Do not covet your neighbor's house. Do not covet your... this reminds me of Dr. Seuss. I'm sorry, it just does. Okay, again, childhood. I will not eat it in a house. I will not eat it with a mouse. Right? Green eggs and ham. I'm sorry. It's a funny book. It's a funny book. No, I'm not saying eat ham. I'm just saying it's a cute book. Do not covet your neighbor's house. Do not covet your neighbor's wife, his male or his female slave, his ox, his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. It's his, not yours. If you lack something, ask Abba. If he doesn't give it to you, maybe you shouldn't have it. Maybe you don't really need it. I don't know. Okay, so do you see how the first 4 are relationship with God? And the last 6 are relationship on how to interact. Now you go into, let me go on to the next one. All the people, verse 18 or 15 or 18, depending on your version. In the complete Jewish Bible, it's 15. All the people experienced the thunder, the lightning, the sound of the shofar, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled, standing at a distance. They said to Moshe, "You speak with us, and we will listen, but don't let God speak with us, or we will die." Oh, please don't be that. Please, 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 please don't be that. And Moshe answered the people, "Don't be afraid." Wrong kind of fear. Stand in awe of him, not in fear of him. If you have relationship, see, I could run into my dad's presence anytime, and it didn't matter what was going on, didn't matter who he was talking, it didn't matter. I had instant access to my Father whenever I needed him. Some other kid would have to go through at the door. Some other kid would have to gain entrance. I didn't. I had no fear. Some other kid might go, "Oh, I don't know if he's asleep," or "I don't know if he's home." Different. Okay. You speak with us and we will listen, but don't let God speak with us or we will die. And Moshe answered the people, "Don't be afraid, because God has come only to test you. Lead us not into hard testing, and make you fear him, revere him, hold him in awe, so that you won't commit sins." Oh, maybe there is a little bit of fear. I don't want his wrath. I really don't want his discipline either. So if I don't do something but we grow through discipline, unfortunately. Okay? Okay. So the people stood at a distance, but Moshe approached the thick darkness where God was. Did you hear that? Thick darkness where God was. If you're in the dark, if you can't see the way, either physically or mentally or emotionally or just proverbially in darkness, and you can't, God is there. Even the darkness is as light to him. Okay? Nothing's impossible for him. Okay, let me jump to 21, verse 21. Oh, I'm ahead of myself. Verse 21 of chapter, in Exodus rather. "These are the rulings you are to present to them." I'm going to stop right there. These are the rulings you are to present to them. In other words, everything in here I just gave you in the summary. It's just like Genesis chapter 1. On the first day, God did this. On the second day, on the third day, on the fourth day, on the fifth. And then the next chapters, he goes back and fills in a little more details. Because that's when he tells you when he created the female, which he didn't tell you about, right? He didn't give you those details. So what he does here is the same thing he always does. I've given you the synopsis. I've given you the introduction. I've given you the conclusion, if you will. Here it is in bullet points. Now I'm going to fill in the blanks. Now I'm going to give you some more detail. This is how you should live. This is how you should treat each other. This is how you approach me. And that's the law. Okay? Got it? Okay. Now turn to Matthew. Chapter 12. Or no, excuse me, 5. Said that wrong. Sorry. Okay, verse 18. 17. Sorry. "Don't think that I have come to abolish the Torah, the mitzvot, the instructions, the commands, the teachings, or the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to complete." What is complete? Make full, to fill up, to cause to abound, to supply to you liberally, not finish as in close the book. Because we can't close the book. Why? Well, let's keep reading. "Yes, indeed, I tell you that until heaven and earth pass away, not so much as a yud or a stroke will pass from the Torah," the law, the instructions, "not until everything that must happen has happened." Has everything happened in the prophets? No! We're waiting for Jacob's trouble. We're waiting for the day of the Lord, which is not Sunday. It's the day of the Lord that's coming, and it's coming soon. Okay? Not everything has been fulfilled yet. Therefore, nothing has passed away. Why don't we take Yeshua's words seriously instead of trying to manipulate scriptures out of context. I don't know. So everyone who disobeys the least of these teachings, I know they like to say, oh, what he just spoke of in Matthew. Do you know that what he just spoke of in Matthew is what we call a midrash on the law? Everything he spoke of on the Sermon on the Mount was a midrash. It was a teaching on law. He was just putting it to you today. This is how you apply it with your heart from the inside out. Okay. So whoever disobeys the least of these mitzvot, these teachings, these rulings, these instructions, and teaches others to do so will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Okay, least in the kingdom of heaven. So my brothers and sisters in denominations that are teaching it, they're not without salvation. They're just not as important as they think they are, because they're missing it. But whoever obeys them and so teaches will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness is greater than the Torah teachers and the Prushim, he's talking about the people of the day, those who added, oh, worship to your elbow. The law doesn't say that. God's instructions didn't say you've added to it. You've made it more. Okay. You will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay? All right. So again, here's the final conclusion. Now that you've heard everything, fear God. Keep his commandments, his instructions. This is what being human is all about. That's your purpose. God, what am I supposed to do? Fear me. Hear my words and do this. Fear me. Hold me in awe and reverence. And then keep my commands. Then you'll do what I've told you to do. Okay? Okay. Oh, let me read. Okay. May Hashem, Adonai, Hashem, Adonai. Didn't say his name. Don't want to say it flippantly. But here, can I say it? Sure. Why? Because we're Mehi, Abba, Adonai, Yed-He, Vav-He. The eternal existing one. Adore you. Guard you. Watch you. Protect you. Celebrate you. Treasure you. May he cause the light of his presence to shine upon and within you. May his presence be illuminated upon you and within you. May he forgive your offenses. Yes, thank you, Abba. And impart unmerited adoration, favor, mercy, and consideration upon you. May Adonai's presence within you and upon you and toward you be set, directed towards, and extended to you and in you, continuously carrying you, supporting you, sustaining you, pardoning you with regards to you, and may he give to you and ordain and establish, set, and determine and fix complete soundness. Here too. Complete soundness. Safety. Quiet. Sometimes those 10 lanes in my brain get quiet. Tranquility. Contentment. And friendship. Isn't that beautiful? V'yarekaka Adonai v'yeshmereka Yair Adonai panav elecha v'hunecha Yisai Adonai panav elecha v'yashem lecha shalom. Shabbat shalom.